Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon. I have a readout on one of the meetings today, and following which I will answer questions on that. And other than that, I am available for responding to any other questions that you may have. The readout that I have relates to the meeting of the External Affairs Minister with the visiting UK Secretary of State, Mr. William Hague. The meeting started off on a good note because, as you are aware, that this morning the UK had announced that they are setting up a statue of Mahatma Gandhi at Parliament Square, and EAM began by thanking them for this gracious gesture. The discussions were wide-ranging and extensive, and they covered a broad canvas in terms of a variety of issues. We started off with discussions on economic ties because these are very robust, and there is great expectations from the UK that these would be moving to the next level. In this context, perhaps you are aware that the UK is the third largest investor in India, and India is the fifth largest investor in UK. There are approximately 700 Indian companies in UK, and I understand by last count they were employing more than 7,000 people there in the UK. So the focus of the economic ties were on issues relating to the Bangalore-Mumbai economic corridor. External Affairs Minister did indicate that the perspective plan on this should be available by the end of the year. That will indicate the nodes where we would like infrastructure investment related opportunities will be provided, and we hope that UK and British companies would be involved in this major infrastructure project in India. In addition, there was a discussion on security related issues. These include cyber terrorism, these include counter-terrorism and cyber issues. Given that the UK is home to approximately 1.5 million of the Indian diaspora, there was a discussion on various aspects of people-to-people relations, and these include consular relations, visa matters, and extradition-related issues. Also, India and UK are partnering in a range of issues. These relate to skill development, science and technology, and nuclear cooperation. And so there were discussions on how to take the relationship forward in this. As regards the people-to-people interactions, External Affairs Minister did indicate to the UK counterpart that she will be visiting UK for the Pravasi Bharati Divas as in her capacity as the Minister for Overseas Indian Affairs in October. The UK Secretary of State immediately responded that he would also wish to have bilateral interactions during that period, and this will be discussed through diplomatic channels. And finally, there was a discussion on regional issues and international issues across the globe. This included, of course, the security situation in Iraq, the security situation in Afghanistan, the discussions of P5+1 with Iran, as well as matters relating to reform and restructuring of the United Nations Security Council. I think I will stop at that. And if any of you have questions on any of the aspects relating to UK, I will respond to them. Otherwise, the floor will then be subsequent to that open for anything else that you may want to know. So the floor is now open with respect to UK. Yes, Srinjay?
Sir, there is a British citizen called Raymond Varley, who's a pedophile and is wanted in India. Did Mrs. Swaraj bring the issue of Raymond Varley?
Yes, this issue did figure during the context of issues relating to extradition, the External Affairs Minister did point out the details, as you have indicated, that he is required in Goa, and had requested that India is very keen on his extradition. Yes, ma'am. Nayanima?
So were there any discussions on the Vodafone tax dispute?
No, there were no discussions on in the context of the the meeting that I am talking of. Yes, just one. No, anybody else, UK? Then we can, yes. Rajiv?
Akbar, there have been 40 ministerial visits from UK to India in past 4 years. How many ministerial visits from India to UK in this period?
Rajiv, I do not have the calendar of visits, but my understanding is that what you said is perhaps correct, because I was told that there were 50 in the last few years in terms of ministerial visits, but I do not have a record and itinerary of the number of Indian senior level visitors visiting UK, but I think, let me assure you that UK is an important partner, and there have been large number of visits from Indian ministers across the board to the United Kingdom. I do not have an exact number on that. If you are very keen, we will find it out and let you know. Sure. Yes. Anchit?
Sir, did the MMRCA deal figure in this meeting, or if in any other meeting and you're aware?
There are other meetings which are underway, because Mr. Osborne was to meet his counterpart, Mr. Arun Jaitley, who is also the Defence Minister. Mr. Osborne and Mr. Hague are meeting the Prime Minister. So obviously issues relating to defence may figure. I am not aware of that. However, as regards this meeting, yes, the UK Foreign Secretary did indicate the technological advantages, etc., of the product that they have available with them. Yeah, no, anyone else, and then we could go to anything else. Yeah, if there are none on UK, I am willing to answer other questions. Sure, there are several of you. Let's start with Padmarao.
Akbar, could you please shed some light on the exact date of departure of the Prime Minister for the BRICS Summit, and whether he's touching down in Berlin or Frankfurt, or will that depend on tonight's game?
I see that football fever is catching up with all of you, and I understand that we are all football fans. And I find it very interesting that not only are you football fans, but are interested in linking it up with diplomacy. But let me tell you the dates. I think the dates, if any of you had asked, I would have indicated before, because I have previously said that it was not going to be the 11th, because there were reports to that extent. Now that you've asked me a direct question, I can answer you that date will be the 13th. And the Prime Minister, as I have previously said, will transit through Germany. As regards anything else, I've also said previously that should there be anything beyond a transit, we will certainly share that information with you, but please be, until then, it is what it is. If there is a change, sure, we will share that information with you, because you seem to be very excited about mixing football and diplomacy. And it's good, because diplomacy gains a higher profile because of football. Yes, sir.
Hi, Anando from Indo-Asian News Service. There are reports that the government has asked the United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan to vacate the government housing in the capital, and also communicated to the UN that UNMOGIP has no relevance today. Would you confirm this?
Well, I think it's not new that we have said that as far as we are concerned, the UNMOGIP has outlived its relevance. This is a consistent stance that we have articulated on several occasions. Now, if your question is beyond that, and that is about a accommodation that they have in Delhi, yes. I can confirm that we have asked the Unmogip to vacate government bungalow, which was provided to them free of charge. And this is in line with our effort to rationalize Unmogip's presence in India. Now, as part of this exercise, we have monetized various facilities that were being provided to Unmogip free of cost till now. And it is in that context we have communicated to them. Yes, sir. On this? Yeah, sure. Follow up. Let's work on this. Then we.
Had some deadline to vacate this panel to them?
We have indicated to them that we would like the house vacated. As is normal, these are diplomatic communications, and in diplomacy, you are aware that these things are worked out quietly behind the scenes, and once it is worked out, we will let you know. But it is a decision that we've taken that they will need to vacate. Yes, Snehesh?
Mentioned that you want to rationalize their presence. What exactly do you mean by the term rationalize? And also, is it part of the new government that has come in? Is it part of a changed policy? They have been here for 40 years. All of a sudden, now we've asked them to leave.
Well, Snehesh, we are in budgetary season, and everybody's tightening their belts. So, if that is so, this is rationalization means that you pay for what you get. And as I said, it also means monetization of the services that were provided. And as far as the UN is concerned, I'm certain it is an organization with adequate resources, no paucity of funds. So we shouldn't bother about this too much. Yes, one by one. Naz?
Is there any update on the 39 Indian captives in Iraq?
No, if I have, I will let you know. I do not have anything on that. Yes. Yes. About the UK? Well, okay. Please, let's be more disciplined in our approach. Anybody on UK, we finish. Sure. No problem.
Then it on Finn Mechanica and the Augusta Westland deal and the investigations happening in India.
No, there was no discussion on that aspect. Anyone else on UK? Anyone else on Unmogip? Okay. So, anything else? Next point. Yes.
Has there been any report which you've received of a possible Indian being shot in Iraq? There's some families in Barich which claim.
I'm glad you raised that question. We find it extremely difficult that one day there is a report about coming from somewhere without any corroboration based on a individual who has told another individual about it regarding a third individual's death. And today there is in another newspaper a report which says that this didn't happen in Iraq at all, it happened in Saudi Arabia. So please understand, the Gulf is a very wide canvas. There are 7 million Indians there. So that's my point that I always make. These reports are unsubstantiated, and it is only fair, give us a fair chance to respond to it, to check and find out. Now, this report that you mentioned was yesterday, and immediately we got in touch to find out, please tell us, because if this is a report by somebody who has come back from Iraq on a chartered flight which were provided by the government of India, then nobody had told us about this situation when he was there. And it was found out that no, this was not. There is no such thing that had happened there. It is apparently a report which has today been clarified that it relates to somebody who was in Saudi Arabia. And the distances are very vast in that part of the world. Yes. Gautam?
The arbitral tribunal of Hague has pronounced their judgment on India-Bangladesh maritime boundary. Would you like to comment on the judgment, whether it has gone in favor of India or Bangladesh?
Gautam, you know our approach previously. You had asked this question a few days ago, and I had delineated our approach. That said, you're right that the judgment was passed yesterday. And we respect the verdict of the tribunal and are in the process of studying the award and its full implications. That said, we believe that the settlement of the maritime boundary will further enhance mutual understanding and goodwill between India and Bangladesh by bringing to closure a long pending issue. This, in our view, paves the way for the economic development of that part of the Bay of Bengal, which will be beneficial to both countries. Anyone else on anything? Yes. Shailendra?
The evacuation process of Indian nationals from non-conflict areas of Iraq been completed?
No, it's not yet been completed because there were some scheduling issues, and I understand tomorrow another plane will be coming from Najaf to Delhi. It will have approximately more than 200 people from a company which has been in the news for some time. This is the Marmara company. Those of you who are aware, there were again news items that actually 200 people were kidnapped. If you remember, there was a news item saying that 200 people were kidnapped in Karbala. Actually, they were not kidnapped, they were having labor disputes. And following that labor dispute, we understand that they decided no longer to stay with the company in its premises. So the embassy has arranged for them to be taken out from there. They are now being taken care of by our officials. They have bused them from there to Najaf, and they are looking after them. They are in accommodation provided by the embassy, and hopefully tomorrow those 200 plus will return. Some of them who were there in addition to these people have already traveled back, but these are in very small numbers. The large chunk of more than 200 people who were attributed by some of you as being held captive are not captive. They were having labor disputes. They have now moved out. They are with the embassy, and we hope to bring them back tomorrow. No, I think my understanding is tomorrow later half of the day, and I will confirm to you the timing once I have it tied up. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, just a minute. Suhasini?
Now that the maritime boundary resolution is in, I know it's not connected, but yesterday the Bangladesh High Commissioner had said that the government hopes that in the next 3 to 4 months, there will be the possibility of bringing the land border agreement in for ratification. On the Indian government side, is there any move or any timeline yet?
I do not know. That's a statement that you are saying of what he told you. As far as I know, what the External Affairs Minister did indicate to her interlocutors in Bangladesh was that they are examining the issue. This is a matter which is now on the floor of the House in terms of being referred to a parliamentary committee. She also mentioned the parliamentary committees are in the process of being constituted with some new members, and once this is done, the normal parliamentary process will continue. Whether that has been interpreted to mean a time frame, I don't think she said that time frame at all. This is what she said. I was also present there. There was no reference to a certain time frame, but she did indicate that the process in India is underway. Yes, Parul?
On the outcome of the Afghan presidential elections.
Yeah. We are monitoring the situation in terms of the political developments in Kabul pertaining to the elections. Like all of you, we are also aware that the preliminary announcements have been made in this regard. We understand that subsequent to those preliminary announcements, both the candidates have filed their respective complaints before the electoral authorities. It is now for the Afghan electoral institutions to assess these and then make a final announcement about the outcome of the elections. Now, in elections, there will always be a winner and a loser. This is normal in election processes. But we are confident that the Afghan leadership cutting across party lines, knows that while winning an election requires simple arithmetic, running a country requires inclusiveness and an ability to carry everyone along. Anyone else on anything? If not, yes, ma'am.
After Mr. Modi attends BRICS, what would be his next overseas destination?
Well, we already have an issue about when he is attending that one. Let's go step by step. And as you are aware, we are a little bit slow in terms of working these things out, unlike all of you who are smart young people who get it all right on the first go. Every time too. You're absolutely right. I all said young, you're always young. If that is all, then we will end this interaction. Thank you very much.